95% of families are in a state of crisis. Crisis looks different for every family. I want to do everything I can to help my child. And that was me. Very quickly, I realized I can't do this as a parent. And when you get a medical diagnosis that affects your whole family, that also will cause even more strain on the family. I 100% believe that if your child will benefit from SLP, OT, that's an important part of the plan. But I think the number one step is...
When did you get the diagnosis for your child? How long ago was that?
This February was 2 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago.
So still pretty new, I guess. Still pretty fresh.
Yeah, I guess, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean...
My whole world has changed since then, though.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. I was going to say, can you take us back to that moment? And I know maybe not the moment, but take us back 2 years ago. And where were you then? How were you feeling? If you can think back to kind of that person.
Well, I think most parents, they tend to have a gut feeling. They tend to know something is up. And so the diagnosis itself is kind of that clarity that they feel that they might have needed. But it's also a pivotal point because that's when you have direction now. But what can happen then when you have that direction is that compelling need to do everything. You've been holding back because you didn't quite know if that was the right direction you needed to go. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, you got that piece of paper saying, okay, I got this diagnosis. Now I have to get them in every single therapy possible. I want to do everything I can to help my child. And that was me. As soon I had a gut feeling, but until I got that diagnosis, that's when I was like, okay, SLP, OT, BI services, behavioral consultants, RDI, let's do it. And very quickly, I realized, okay, one, I can't do this as a parent. This is a lot for me to undertake. And two, what am I teaching my child here? I'm teaching him to go full out. And he's now in a dysregulated state because I went from, maybe going to swimming lessons on a Saturday morning and maybe playing this activity to literally therapy how many times a week. So
when you say your life was flipped upside down, you weren't kidding. Like it totally changed.
It does change. It definitely changes the dynamic of the family. And when, like for me, I only have one child. When you have more kids, this is going to affect everyone in your family, not just mom and dad. If you have siblings, this is going to affect their lives, their daily activities, because now mom and dad are taking them to 4 different therapies a week.
So how is now, I want to fast forward to today. So this was 2 years ago, feeling overwhelmed, 3 years ago, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you feel like your future's been taken away from you. But what does life look like now, 3 years after, everything that you learned? I hear you've changed careers. You've totally pivoted. So walk me through a little bit of like, what does life look like now on the other end?
Once I did the work. So a lot of what most people don't realize is we're constantly living in a state of crisis. And when you get a medical diagnosis that affects your whole family, that also will cause even more strain on the family. And what that does, it has a tendency to do, is really heighten what's already maybe been fractured in the family dynamic. And in my case, it was mental health, my own personal mental health, high anxiety. And so I had to do a lot of the work on myself to regulate, to ground myself, and to be able to manage my anxiety in a way so that I could then take the next steps to help my child. although I wanted, and I did go hardcore, I wanted to do all the things and do all the therapies, and I did, I very soon recognized that that was not doing myself a service. I was disservicing myself by doing that.
So what is I want you to paint a picture of like what life looks like now, knowing what you know after you've gone through the chaos. Where are you now?
Now my son is thriving. He is such a cool little guy. We as a family are thriving. We have a great understanding of our family's dynamic and what the needs are for our family, as we all are a little neurodiverse. We now understand that emotional regulation is very, very, very high on our list of priorities. It's a very important topic in our house. Talking open communication with one another is also a huge thing, because we know the importance of that connection between one another. So our family as a whole is really thriving. We have a really, really amazing dynamic in my house of openness, curiosity, understanding, and allowance for us to all be who we need to be. In my world as a mom, I can't help but be happy that I get to help other parents through this journey, through my own lived experience, and how I can, provide direction for these families when I know the challenges that come with that diagnosis and that need to jump headfirst into making all these decisions and rushing into therapies that you may or may not quite understand what the point of them is. And you're just trusting the professionals, which I get. It's you think they know what they're doing. I wholeheartedly believe in them. And not to say any therapy is wrong. I 100% believe that if your child will benefit from SLP, OT, physical therapy, whatever, that's an important part of the plan. But I think the number one step is slowing down and understanding yourself and understanding what your family dynamic needs.
So let's touch on this, because this episode is about the biggest mistakes that parents make after they get the diagnosis. And that could be a year after getting it, could be 2 weeks after getting it. It's let's cover in the last 3 years, as I'm sure it wasn't a perfect ride. No. I'm sure there's some ups and some downs. So let's share some advice for the parents listening, watching this right now. What are some of let's talk about the biggest mistakes that you could share your wisdom going through this, now becoming, literally changing your career and becoming a autism specialist. And you're coaching families every single week, right, on how they can better understand their child, how they can better communicate and regulate the home. Let's touch on some of those big mistakes.
So I made a lot of mistakes. So do as I say, not as I did. I think there's certain amount of grief that comes along with getting a medical diagnosis, which is allowed. 100%. We need to grieve the life, the future that we once believed that we could have had. Maybe you still have that future. Not to say it's all doom and gloom. But as a parent, you envision your child's life, and things become a little unknown at this point. And so allowing yourself to grieve, I would say, is one of the first steps that you should be doing.
It sounds like it's almost like kind of like a similar feeling to a death, in the sense of, I'm a new father. I have a 6-month-old baby girl. And if I got that news today, because I've been, envisioning our future together, what would her wedding look like, graduation, And all of a sudden this news comes in. To me, the word is like, that future is dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess in a certain sense you could compare it to that. I think we grieve things as parents. We're constantly grieving.
Yeah.
You have an idea of what, like for me, like I really wanted a girl and I had a boy. I had to grieve the fact that I wasn't having a girl. That's okay. It's allowed. We're allowed to feel these emotions and to process things the way we do. There's nothing wrong with grieving. There's nothing wrong with identifying that we wanted things, we hoped, we prayed that things would be a certain way, and they may not. Just like, I don't know, maybe your dream is for your child to become a doctor. And they become a teacher. It's not to say one's better or worse.
Yeah.
It's just, it was the life that you imagined for them. And it's different. Nothing wrong with that.
So you have permission to grieve.
Yes.
Don't feel guilty.
No.
Don't feel guilty for grieving through this, hard times.
And I know a lot of parents feel shame for feeling that guilt. And that was, in my opinion, one of my first mistakes, is I carried a lot of shame for feeling that guilt, which I'm wanting to share with parents that it's okay. I'm allowing you to feel your feelings without any shame.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you love your child less. Doesn't mean that you're a bad parent for feeling these emotions. It means that you're human. And it means that you love so deeply, that you're so passionate about this and your child, that you're feeling a sense of grief, and that's allowed. So another thing that I want to talk.
So that was one. Permission to grieve.
Yes. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of families doing is they get the diagnosis and parents are like, okay, let's do this. We're going in 110%. And just like I did, you go in and you're like, I want them in this therapy, this therapy, this therapy. I want them in this social group. I want them doing extracurriculars. I want them to have all this social time with other kids, that you end up overbooking them. You end up having your entire week filled with activities and therapies and social groups, and parents become taxi drivers. They are shuttling from one therapy to another. But not just that, your child is now getting minimal downtime. They're getting minimal time to regulate themselves and to just be a child.
Yeah, be a kid.
Yeah, like
play outside, have fun.
It's almost too much. And then what ends up happening is you get into this cycle of your child's dysregulated. So you think you need more therapy to help them regulate. Right. So then you put them in more therapy, which causes them further dysregulation, which causes more behavioral concerns. And it's this constant cycle. They're getting worse, so we need to put them in more therapy. And next thing you know, you have a completely dysregulated child, a completely dysregulated household, and you're not achieving the goals that you set out for anyone involved. So mistake number 2, I really encourage parents to take a moment to slow down and really think about what therapies they should be doing. So one of the things that we do a lot with families is identifying their schedule, going through their schedule and really identifying and starting to notice, hey, do you find that your Mondays are crazy busy? They're insanely busy from morning to night. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different activities.
Don't have a breath.
And then you find, oh my gosh, Tuesday, my child is always overwhelmed. Well, yeah, because they need downtime. They need to be able to have some quiet and regulation.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think, as a parent, why are we trying to fill up their time?
There's a huge pressure for parents to start early intervention. So we're constantly told, especially once we get a diagnosis for our child, in early intervention is key. And so it almost is like this pressure put on parents that there's this little window of opportunity. And as they get older and older, this window gets smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where you feel like, oh my gosh, this window's closed. I can't help my child. And so while I understand doctors are coming from a very good, genuine place of, yes, early intervention is important.
Yeah.
Because one, you in BC especially, you have access to more funding if your child is under 6 years old. Therefore, you're allowing the opportunity to get into more therapies,
right,
and have that early intervention. But I want to tell parents there is no window. There's no window of you have to get in before they're 6 years old or else that's it. There's no hope. My son wasn't diagnosed until he was 6 years old. I remember hearing about this window of opportunity and then thinking, oh my gosh, I was too late. The guilt I felt for not doing something sooner. Like, I'm sorry, I already have so much other guilt. Let's add another layer. Like, it's...
Yeah, we already have enough guilt as parents, yes.
Yeah, so...
Especially as they get older,
Yeah. So parents definitely feel like there's this pressure to do. They have to do it fast. They have to do it right.
They have to do it now.
They have to do it now.
Yeah.
And there's no right way of doing this. There's no parenting handbook.
To me, it's like putting pressure and then putting added stress, which is the thing that will burn you out, which will, how you're going to be a good parent if you're burnt out, if you're exhausted. You're not going to have the energy to connect with your child.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the biggest ones too, is what your child doesn't need a parent that's going to take them from every single therapy and do all these things. Your child needs an emotionally available parent that is willing to connect with them and meet them where they're at.
Let's double down on that, on like, how can they meet them where they're at? So I understand what you're saying in mistake number 2 is less is more, right? You don't want to jam in every single therapy and so that they don't have a childhood. They just have therapy, and that's not going to help them. It's going to actually hurt them. Less is more. Select the ones that are absolutely needed right now, have less stress, more connection. So I think they grasp that idea, but now it's like, okay, now let's talk about that connection. What did you go through? You must have went through some mistakes connecting with your child and learning about, because every kid is unique, especially every diagnosis is unique. So it's like, can you share a little bit about that connection and what you did and what you would advise?
Yeah. So, like I said, I did a lot of personal work on myself, and I really understood the importance of listening to what my child needed. My child, and not in the sense of always hearing them talk, reading their body language. I expected communication to be verbal. He had to tell me what he wanted. But when maybe he's not saying it, but he's showing it with his body. And when I was able to kind of slow down to listen to what he's trying to tell me through his body language, through his actions, that allowed me to connect with him on a different level.
I hear this, you saying this a lot, slow down. I see this theme of like, you don't have to rush through this process. I think, to me, what I'm hearing as a new parent, and I'm trying to imagine if I got that diagnosis, how I'd feel. It's like, yeah, I'm go. And what I'm really picking up is slow is fast. By slowing down, by
slowing down, you're building the foundation. It's all about building this foundation by connecting with your child on a level that meets them where they're at, understanding maybe what their needs are. like I said, they don't need a parent that's taking them from therapy to therapy and doing all those things. They need an emotionally available parent, someone that's able to want to connect with them, someone that's able to slow things down, meet them where they are. And I think that will help build that foundation where you can grow on to be able to find different ways to connect with your child. So my son has tons of special interests, maybe not my ideal topics, but the joy that your child will have when you connect with them on something they're interested in. Oh my gosh, he cannot wait to tell me all about his Pokemon. All about his Pokemon cards and what they mean and who they are. And is it my idea of fun? No. But I can see the joy he brings. And for us, that is a way to connect. And that is how, but I was able to do that only because I built that foundation. I took the time to slow down, read his body language, see what he's trying to tell me, and slowly build my way up to a point that I'm able to connect. I'm emotionally regulated, that I can sit there and listen to him tell me all about his favorite Pokemon for half an hour. And I'm emotionally regulated to just sit there, and because I'm seeing this as a beautiful opportunity to connect with him. And so I think that is where that connection is. We need to slow down, take the time to find a way to connect with our child.
So what I'm seeing is, like before, and mistake number 2 is that we're trying to jam everything in, less is more. In this one, you're actually focusing on yourself. You're saying you need to regulate so that you can be the best parent for your child.
Yeah.
And so I guess the mistake that I'm hearing from you is that actually focusing on yourself, on your own health, your own mental well-being, and will actually benefit your kid and your connection with your child.
Yeah. So one of the biggest mistakes is avoiding your self-care, avoiding your well-being, only focusing on your child and not taking that time for yourself to understand what's important for you to become that emotionally available parent, as well as your family dynamic. So a lot of the times with a lot of the families I work with, we focus a lot on communicating between the spouses. So mom and dad, what does that look like? Remember, they're setting the example of what relationship look like, right? You're there. That is the first model of what a relationship is for your child.
Right.
And so if we're able to find a way that to make sure that mom and dad feel connected and grounded and they're communicating, that will be a great building block. So again, we're looking at that foundation. These are all things that help build this foundation for this child.
It's so interesting. It's like I something came up while you were talking. A lot of the times parents will identify as a mom, identify as a father, right? And it becomes their identity. What do you say to parents? Because what you're saying is like, focus on yourself, right? Self-care is caring for your child. But like, I feel like almost like a pushback from some people watching and listening to this right now. Like, well, me being a mom, me being a dad is my purpose in life, is my identity. Is there any thing you would say to those parents who are so much, that is what they want, that is who they are? Like, how did you focus on yourself? How did you learn that lesson of the importance of that?
Your child is always watching you. They are constantly observing. And so as a parent, if you are not taking the time for yourself, you're not communicating, you're just like I get like when parents say my role in life is to be a mother. That's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with being so passionate about taking care of your children and putting them on, as a very high priority.
Mm-hmm.
But number one priority always has to be yourself.
Mm.
You need to be your number one priority.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, your child is always watching you. If they see all these things, they're going to start mirroring. They're going to start reflecting. So if you're not taking self-care, time for self-care,
Mm-hmm.
your child is not going to learn what self-care is. They're not going to learn that they need to also take care of their own well-being, whether that's emotionally, physically, mentally. Like, you need to do these. So for me, when I started my mental health journey, seeing a counselor and going through that, I talked quite openly about it with my family. And so my son understands the importance of regulation versus dysregulation. He uses this wording in his terminology, his language, as as a child. He understands I'm dysregulated, what that means. So he's able now as a child to identify that.
Yeah.
And have strategies in his toolbox to be able to help regulate himself. So parents need to be the role model they want to be for their child.
Yeah. What comes to mind is like you can design your life and your family dynamic. You could do it by design or by default. That a lot of parents probably are more reactive, and thus their life is default, meaning not by design, not the way you want it, always frustrated. Or they can slow down. They can design their dream family dynamic, their dream life with their child, and figure out what that looks like, and then schedule that into practice. So you can live it by design or live it by default is like what I'm taking away.
Yeah. And there's always going to be things that get thrown in that throw a wrench in your plan.
Of course. It's never perfect.
That's parenting, right? There's just when you think you figured it out.
Yeah.
There's another fun situation that comes into play.
So how can parents become this model, this role model? Because they're probably like they're so entrenched in the into the diagnosis, and how do they slow down? How do they regulate? Like, what did you do to do that? Like, I get being observant, but is there any like habits or practices that you recommend parents do?
Self-care in itself, taking that time and baby steps, like the baby steps make a huge difference.
Don't try to like go to the gym, see a counselor, like do too much too fast.
Right? Yeah, sometimes if you do something like that, you'll overwhelm yourself and you won't be productive.
Yeah.
Even taking 20 minutes a day to just slow down, find something that you're able to do special for yourself. I remember one family I worked with, and one of the parents was like, "What's the point? It's 20 minutes. What's the point in 20 minutes? It's just gonna, it's more hassle to schedule that 20 minutes, and it's not gonna do anything." But the thing is, you're building a habit. Right. And that habit needs to start somewhere. And so that 20 minutes will be 20 minutes. And what that does is it tells yourself that you're prioritizing your well-being. You're also showing your child, I'm prioritizing my well-being. So they are starting to see the importance of that. And then slowly, maybe 20 minutes turns into 30 minutes, which turns into
compounds.
Yeah, it turns into, and then you just naturally start thinking, I am, this is going to be a stressful week. I need to make sure I book in extra self-care time.
When you think about it from a long horizon, like whenever I am looking at something like, oh, like that won't make a difference. We look at it as an individual, but if you think of 365 times 20 minutes, 365 days in a year, you do it 20 minutes a day. How much self-care have you had in a year? Would that make a difference? Yes.
Exactly.
Right? So I think to your point, it's like when you slow down, you look at the bigger picture. That's what it's all about.
As humans, we love instant gratification.
Yeah.
We want to see the results right
Yeah,
now,
of course.
you know, and parenting, especially parenting with an autistic child,
Mm.
yeah, you do want to see
Mm-hmm.
results. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of the times we have families that come in and I want you to cure my child. Give me the
Mm.
magic tool to cure my child. This is not something that's curable, nor should it be curable. These kiddos are amazing
Incredible.
little beings, and they
Mm-hmm.
have so much to offer.
Mm-hmm.
We as parents, we as the adults
Mm-hmm.
need to we need to find the way to connect with them.
Right.
And that's, you do that by slowing down,
Yeah.
by really being intuitive to what they're doing, reading their body language,
Right.
listening to what their words actually say. If they're
Mm-hmm.
verbal and they're telling you a story, listen, genuinely
Yeah.
listen to what they're telling you.
Yeah. Because those are signals that they're trying to connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're tired because you've been a taxi person and you're going to all these appointments and it's overwhelming you, you're not going to give them that connection. And that's why there's a disconnect,
Yeah.
right? So, that's huge, honestly.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot. We've covered less is more. Slow down. You can design your dream life with your child. You don't have to live by default. Don't have to live by reaction.
Mm-hmm.
What other things are you seeing on a weekly, monthly basis that parents are coming to you with that they're struggling with and mistakes they're making?
So what we typically see is 95% of families are in a state of crisis. Now, crisis looks different for every family,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, families do tend to be in a state of crisis once they receive that diagnosis. They feel like, okay, it's survival. They're just really trying to get through day by day by day.
Yeah.
They're not looking at the bigger picture. They're not looking at the future.
Yeah.
They're just looking for, okay, next 24 hours.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is help these parents find that when you can help remove yourself out of a state of crisis into a growth mindset,
Mm.
you are able to then become this parent that is able to connect with their child, able to guide their child, able to be the person that their child needs to succeed. And I think it's so important that parents slow down. They take the time to really understand what is it that their child needs, and then start making these decisions.
Mm.
And slowing down really does help you in the end game. It helps you see the bigger picture. It allows you to
Right.
step into this parenting guide.
So what's something parents can do this week, this month, to kind of change their dynamic, to slow things down and to connect with a child?
Well, first of all, being here is your first step. You're moving into more of that growth mindset where I want to learn more. I want to do more. I want to be more for my child. So listening to this podcast is a great first step. Another great idea is joining us for our workshop that's coming up. We have a workshop coming up for families, for parents who are just dealing with they're receiving their diagnosis for their child, and we have the 5 main shifts that every parent needs after their diagnosis. And this can be right when, say you got your diagnosis a couple weeks ago, say you got it a few months ago, say you got it a few years ago,
Yeah.
and you're still struggling on what to do next. This is what this workshop is for.
If you feel like you're in crisis.
Yes, if you feel like you're in crisis, what do I need to do to make the first step?
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up this episode, I love to finish off these things with, if you can summarize the biggest problem these parents are facing and what they can do, what would you say is that biggest problem?
Parents are doing too much. They need to slow down. They need to make baby steps towards their goals. I feel like there was something else. What was
I was saying, like, you hit the nail on the head. They're doing too much, and this is how they can actually connect with their child, or something like that. It's more curiosity driven. So I can say the question again, but say exactly that. Say they're doing too much. You are doing too much as a parent, and this is what you actually need to connect with your child.
Okay.
So, what is to summarize this episode? What is the biggest problem parents are facing?
Parents are doing too much. They want to be this superhero parent and want to do all the things, but slowing down, that is how you build the foundation to connect with your child.
Perfect. Love that. And then we finish off the episode with the.
Do we need to do introductions or like?
No, because we'll just have like a tagline that'll say your name and your title. Okay. If you want, do you want people to connect with you on Instagram or something?
Follow me, like and subscribe.
Well, hey, thank you guys so much for listening, watching this right now. Put in the comments what really resonated with you. We're going to do more of this style of content on this channel, on this podcast. Love to hear from parents. What was most resonant with you? What do you want to learn more? I'm here to help the experts share their expertise and insights. And I'm learning a lot as a new dad, so this is awesome. But thank you guys so much for listening, watching. This is Raising Awesome Podcast. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.